Peace, love, and light, family. Today I wanted to do a personal video about the dark night of the soul, or the ego death, and how the Blu-ray experiences it. I cannot speak for everybody else, of course. I can only speak for myself. I can only learn and teach. For the Blu-ray, we go through many ego deaths from the time our, I guess you could call them ancestors, or the seventh density beings we belong to, start to fine-tune our consciousness. We start to go through that dark night of the soul. Now, for a Blu-ray, if the Blu-ray has a twin flame, the dark night of the soul could be a little bit different. So let's start off by speaking on what the dark night of the soul is. So basically, some believe that you cannot have rebirth, like spiritual rebirth, without it. Okay, so just a little history on it. A Spanish mystic named Saint John of the Cross coined this. I believe Jung did as well, but I don't know who came first. It really doesn't matter, but he pretty much coined it. That's why he chose it. He says it's just an extremely painful period in one's life. It's a phase of passive purification of the spirit in the mystical development. A moment where God's presence is felt, right? But the presence is not stable yet. That brings on the pain of the dark night. Now, in between that, all of your false subjective personality falls away. And that's where the ego death comes in. Everything that you gave meaning to, like let's say you're an athlete, activities, you know, even me being a spiritualist, a healer, whatever, any achievements that are considered important, that all that meaning collapses, because that is just a definition of this personification of Monica, right? That's not truly what God intended, my spirit intended, what my soul intended for me to do. So I thought I wrote this about the ego death to explain it from my own perspective. But if you believe you're going through this right now, which I think a lot of Blu-rays are, that's why there are some Blu-rays that are not online right now. One of the true ones, like nobody can find him because he's probably going through this. It's hard for me to believe that one is truly speaking from spirit 100% of the time, altruistically, if they have not experienced this ego death from the dark night of the soul. Now, let's start with the ego death. So, ego death. So, the subjective self-identity, okay? The beliefs, the desires, the attachments, they can separate us from the rest of the world, right? The constructed identity dissolves with the ego death, with a self of oneness and the all as a deeper connection to the true self starts. This is like what I meant by, oh, I thought I was on a spiritual journey. Well, I was on a journey, all right, but this is where the connection to the true self has truly begun for me. This experience can be deeply unsettling and disorientating. Meaningless comes when it challenges the only notions of who we thought we were, or still think we believe we are. So that's what I mean by many ego deaths. Like, people call them lessons. Well, maybe one part of the ego was, you know, attached to materialism. So now a challenge came that was deeply unsettling and disorientated you, or maybe you have maybe your spiritual attachment to any higher power that you feel or believe in or whatever, maybe that is rocked by somebody dying. So let's go on. So, however, it opens doors to profound spiritual awakening and enlightenment. It does. It truly does. But remember, it's not stable. Nothing is. So, if I would not have known a week after what had happened to me that I was going through an ego death, I would have probably thought I was going insane. If I had no attachment to my higher power, to my spirit, I could have gone into a deep depression if, I would have attached meaning to certain tangible things that I defined as myself, right? So ego death is a necessary part of awakening and enlightenment. And though that's for me, it is essential. True enlightenment does not come without the dissolving of these false egoic programs, whether they're sent, whether they're familial, societal, all of it. So it involves the shedding of the false self, revealing the true essence of one's being. This is why I have been speaking on Dharma lately. It's the only way that I can explain it. Like, my love language is, acts of service. My mission is, my higher self is of the 7th density consciousness of Blu-ray. My true essence is my light. They asked the Buddha, why is your light shining so bright? He said, because I'm enlightened. So now your light is like really shining bright. So, but for the Blu-ray, this still doesn't really mean like people are going to like love you or whatever. It just means like the dark and light are going to be attracted even more. And for us, it's just like more money, more problems. Like, so it could be a positive or a negative. The best part for us is we're truly stepping into our essence. There's no more, it's not even like 80%, it's 100% at this point. We can't even fake the funk, not even a little bit. And the saddest part of this is when people keep saying, what's wrong, what's wrong? And you're just kind of like living in this 3-dimensional world with another person and having maybe a meaningless conversation, because it doesn't involve your spiritual mission, your connection with God, and this is why you see people, especially chosen, branching together, when people find, God, they get together and they break up with their people that don't believe. It's like, it's a different seat of consciousness. You can attribute that to anything. Like somebody who trains for sports all the time is not gonna just like sit on the couch and watch movies with somebody all day. It just like doesn't work that way, right? So this process allows individuals to transcend their limited ego-based consciousness and access a higher state of awareness. In this state, we experience a profound sense of unity. Now, this is why one of my first videos was the law of becoming one. The mind, body, and spirit trying to get you there, trying to fast track you just a little bit. Because as soon as you balance those 3 energy centers, okay, and you start to embody, now, like, people manifest, yeah, you have to embody. That's also a law of the universe, the law of attraction. You have to embody. You can't just like want money without giving it, or you can't just like want love or attract love without giving. You have to embody what you want. Even if, this is why I tell people, even if you're not happy, change your thoughts to something happy. Eventually, you're going to embody it. right? So I do have a method to my madness. And I hope you follow the chronicle, because I want you all to get here. Not here. This sucks really right now. It's like such a transitional period. I've never felt this before in my life. I've never felt, it's not alone. I don't feel alone. I feel like if it's not for God, like right now, if it's not like the mission, like what the fuck are we talking about? What are we doing? If I'm not taking care of animals or other people right now, like what? So, so this is I wrote this down too. So this is the best part. This is what I have enjoyed lately of the ego death. So the ego becomes a mask because you're the observer now, right? You can turn this on and off. You completely dissolving it is just as a three-brain being. You should know when to use it and not, because if you're still living in this three-dimensional world, which you probably are, it's called walking the line. You know, you got to treat it like a tool. So spirit is in charge indefinitely after this. So don't worry about losing it. You can never lose it after this. That's another great part of the ego death. You never lose your spirit. Your spirit is always number one. Like, certain people won't even be able to be around you. You won't you won't be able to be around certain people, frequencies. You won't even be able to listen to certain music, eat certain foods. And it's not the ego, it just is. Like, so the ego is not in charge. So not the mind. The one that observes is in charge. Okay? The one that observes the mind is in charge. The ego is the mind. Remember, we did mind, body, spirit. The spirit, it tells the ego what to do at this point, right? There's no separation. There's no judgment. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. If they only knew how that felt. I cry right now. You perceive the world as it is. A sense of oneness. You don't perceive it from a false identity. It just is what it is. You sense oneness in all life. So this is where they speak on the chosen and our powers coming online. And I believe that there are a lot of things like the age of Aquarius and, you know, certain DNA upgrades that have kind of like pushed us to this point. Us that were like starseeds, returnees, angelics, chosen to be here, whatever you want to call us, because we had to. And it's like some of us are procrastinators and like waited to like the very last minute. But in a way, it's not the last minute, because I don't know anybody that's on this tip that knows 100, not believes, that knows 100% who they are and what they're here to do. And that's it. And everything is synchronicity. Everything in your life is just all synchronized. No more worries. It just is. It's just feeling. So you have heightened intuition to the point of claircognizance. Look that up. Your consciousness is so big that all you want to do is keep learning. And if somebody's not teaching you something, you're like, what the fuck are we talking about? But we don't say that. Inner guidance. So that's what you go by, your inner guidance all the time. If your inner guidance says you don't want to go out that day, you don't go out. If there's a reason why you haven't met somebody yet, maybe your son's girlfriend or your brother's girlfriend or, you know, your mom's boyfriend, it's because you're not meant to. They might not stay long. It's not for your, they're not for your spirit. They're just gonna poison it at this point. You're divinely protected at this point. This is what It's not a belief, it's a knowing at this point. So as you observe, okay, with a silent mind, the observing becomes the intuition, okay? You can hear the inner self with no thoughts possessing one. Even thoughts possess you. That's why you always hear people, I can't meditate. Before this, last year, I started to fall in love with my mind, in love with my thoughts. The more I gained control of the false belief systems and the behavioral programming, and I started to love myself, this has been my favorite place to be. I don't even want to read books anymore. I feel like Edward Casey, like if I just sleep on it, that's why I told you guys to look up claircognizance. It's a big one for a Blu-ray. If you've gotten to this point, like where it's just a knowing and you've trusted that knowing, it could be the most subtle thing. It just is. So discernment is defined by you. That's another thing. This is something that cannot be defined. I'm trying to in my own knowing, but discernment can only be defined by you. That's why anybody who is opposing your discernment, when you tell them, no, I don't want to, and they keep forcing themselves onto you, that person may have something beyond a behavioral issue, non-consciousness, possibly a demon, a parasite that's turned into a demon, or has been programmed very dysfunctionally, okay? So increased empathy, you have this sense of inner peace that is like no other. I also realized that I thought the human condition was cognitive dissonance, and I was close, my ego was close, but my spirit says it's believing that we are the mind. No, the mind hijacked us, amongst other things. You remember who you are beyond your mind and body. So things like, oh, you're pretty, or like vanity and all that, none of that matters. None of that matters. You guys see what I wear. I care for myself if I smell good. I like to smell myself if I'm pleasant, if my hair is my power. So this is why I always wear it down. I don't care how hot it is. These are my antennas. See how they stick up? See how, I don't dye my hair. I keep this covered because not everybody has access to my consciousness, especially when I do a public video such as this. So things like that I used to do unconsciously. Now I'm realizing why. This was another one. I used to think that surviving was only to thrive. Now I think the opposite. I think you should thrive to survive, if that makes sense. That was a huge shifting point for me. I have heavy emotions, but I'm letting them move through me, and by doing that, I'm transmuting the pain. Yes, transmuting is just knowing the process, but we know the patterns are exiting. That's just what true transmutation is. This is also another one. You get more support from the universe. Like for me, my dog, the more I started supporting nature, the more nature started to support me. The more I needed a nice day, the more I would get one. The more my angelic son would come around, the more my twin flame would put anything he felt aside to help me out. I'm being aided with so many different people showing me as a mirror. Of course, I program them what I'm here to do and reinforcing that. So, so you get more support in the process, in this mystical, spiritual process. At this point, there is no 3D, there is only the spiritual world. I had a woman who wanted to play off of my dark night, and she was an intuitive, but she was trying to make monetary gains off of it, trying to say that, oh, well, you know, you have attachments, and like, you know, like you might not be feeling well and this and that, and you know, like, you know, you really need somebody to do this. And I'm just like, well, you know, if your intuition was really true and on, now that person was sent so I could see where the true ones are and where the true ones aren't. I'm starting to realize, because my past low self-esteem, self-worth, and forgetting who I was, I didn't truly like believe the, you know, the proper path. Like, I didn't really know it's the discernment. So if she had such good discernment and intuition, she would know that as a Blu-ray, I'm constantly going to have parasitic attachments. Why do you think I take sea moss and eat the way that I do? I'm like, I constantly have to flush out my system. Of course I'm going to have envious souls around me. Do I let them affect me? No, it's my world. If she had intuition, she would know that. She said something about, and you're playing with your love life. If she had intuition, she would know that I don't believe in a love life. I believe in a growth of a twin flame journey. Not believe, I know that's what I came here. I split my soul into two so I could have a direct mirror, and I'm grateful for that. Most Blu-rays do. So you focus on receiving. You thank your higher power, God. I mean, today I thanked for my dog. I thanked for the support that I have, for water, for this tea, like any chance that I get. And I just asked my higher self, God, please, just whatever's for me, just bring it. I'm not worried at all. Just bring me something stable. I need to feel stable again, okay? Like, my whole literal world has been rocked, okay? So, this is one, focus on receiving. And this is actually a law of the universe that I'm going to go through, okay? So doing both part of the divine, feminine, and masculine. So you're comfortable with experiencing old heartache and that you thought that you worked on. So when the old heartache comes up, you're comfortable working on it. Your ego is no longer trying to protect your heart, your ego, or any of it. It just is. There is no more. So it's just 100% truth. Like, I don't even know if I'm capable of lying, and why I would at this point. So you take responsibility for your part. In all of it. In everything. That's touched you, that you've touched. There's no more victim mentality. Like, that goes with a false belief system if you had that. You let others walk their own path. Like, you help teach them lessons that you've learned to help them walk this planet. You hand back the lessons that you've learned. You're coming forward, you're just honest. There's, I think, a Buddhist saying, tell them the truth, but love them anyway, not love them and tell them the truth. Because not everybody's going to be open to the truth, but it doesn't matter. As long as you speak your sovereign truth, that is a light code, you are doing your part. A true friend would like to be stabbed in the front. I would, at least. You can hold compassion, but you still know how to hold responsibility. You know you have a karmic and generational responsibility. You don't believe anymore. You know. That becomes a part of the anchoring process, and I'm hoping I can truly find solace and anchor in that. The next level is just to process what you're supposed to do. anything, ask that if anything that you're processing is not yours, that it leaves your field of process immediately. If it's not yours to process, like if you're an empath, especially a very powerful one, you're going to take on others' emotions sometimes without even realizing it if you get to that point of telepathy. So you have to ask every day that if this is not your process, like it's not yours, you send it back to the person that should be processing. Just let go. If you feel people aren't evolving, just let go. You'll both evolve, especially if you're on a twin flame journey. The codependency, the trauma bonding turns into a beautiful relationship of love, compassion, growth. It doesn't mean it's going to be pretty and nice all the time. It just means that you know what true partnership is about. You know what having a witness to your life really what will really mean for the future generations. That's what you care about. That's why the children become so important in the way that we treat the elderly, because we have to set a example. Us, starseeds, chosen, whatever you want to call us, returnees, ascended masters. You're going to keep evolving and shifting, okay, until you get to your highest timeline. All right. I believe that's why I had this complete ego death and this dark night of the soul for the last time. The dark night for the last time, not the ego death, indefinitely, because I'm at my highest timeline. Once you accept and you surrender internally, the higher power, the information just opens up. Okay. I know this video is getting long. I hope I explained to you from me what an ego death feels like, why one must go through it, this extremely painful period of life in order to find them, if their authentic self. If you're on any type of spiritual journey, you could have forced this many times, but once you are truly ready, once you have aligned those energy centers that I spoke to you about as a Blu-ray, this will be the next step. So I also wrote this. So I wrote, this was coming from me. I feel like the world is going through a dark night of the soul, an extremely painful period in one's life where everything that they thought was true is not anymore. So think about it. In this time of unveiling, what people thought was true about, whether it's about themselves or the world, is all crumbling before them. And remember, if their identity was attached to like somebody like, let's even say like Donald Trump, or an athlete of some sort, or a celebrity, or like a food product, an activity of some sort, that they could just feel like it's meaningless at this point anymore, because like they don't, especially if they, what's going to be hard is the people that have no connection to their higher self, to a higher power. They're not going to have the faith to anchor into anything. And that's where you're going to see a lot of suicides, a lot of people giving up, extreme depression. That's probably why they pumped up all the depression commercials, not just to control, because they know what's coming. They've designed this human condition. So of course, one thing I did notice is I can receive messages 100% from my higher self if I follow the 12 laws of the universe. And that's my next video, is I'm going to talk to you about the 12 laws of the universe, the only laws that truly matter, and what will, and how they apply to us in this day and age, not just the law of attraction, and not explaining how it can work, or give some sort of example or parable. Like I said, the hardest part for me is that not everyone that I'm connected with is going to see me as different, or me them, or I'm going to see them different, but they're not going to see me as any different. And some are just going to disappear completely, as they have. And if I don't live my dharma, my soul's mission, I suffer. That's just the bottom line at this point. As my spirit leads me, it is hard to explain this to people. So when they ask me what's wrong, or like why, or when I say I just can't explain it, I can't. Like all of the, for instance, a man should lead, a woman should, like, that's silly, because if you allow spirit to lead, how do you allow somebody else, even yourself, to lead? That's why most of us that have trouble making plans just feel very uneasy when we do, because we're supposed to be letting our spirit lead. Remember, we are not mind, we are spirit. It was just hijacked our mind. As I feel like nothing is real anymore, all I'm asked is what is wrong. And I don't want to look like depressed to somebody, or I don't want to tell them I'm going through a space of emptiness, because I don't lie anymore, so I can't be like, I'm depressed. I'm not depressed. I'm alive, and everything around me feels alive. It's just I'm not stable in the essence of God yet. I'm not stable yet. I've just been rocked. Everything that I thought was real is no longer. No longer. There's no separation in anything. It's just all one. So it's like the meaning that your mind gave you collapses. So whatever meaning your mind gave you of who you are, what you're here for, it collapses, right? And if you don't know what your soul's purpose is, or your meaning from God is, or not even meaning, because that's revealed eventually, you don't have a relationship at all with God, that's going to be a tough one. The good news is that you will evolve from this in a transformed state of consciousness. So you're going to evolve, meaning you're going to have a deeper wisdom and understanding and overstanding of what is truly happening here with us. Life is going to have meaning again. It can't be explained as a sense of purpose and connectedness. It is no longer conceptual. Okay, so there's concepts and theories and philosophies and things of that nature. What your life is no longer a concept. You aren't a concept. Nothing about you is a concept. So how does one speak on that? Like, when people speak about concepts constantly, like, it's no longer conceptual. It's the inexplainable. What I'm speaking to you about is the inexplainable. So many people have tried to explain this, and I'm doing the best I can from a personal space, a spiritual space. So it's like you arrive in a place of conceptual meaningless. Yeah. Think about that for a minute. You arrive in a place of conceptual meaningless, a state of ignorance, right? Which I always tell people, imagine that you just got here. If they have trouble, gaining space in the mind, that's one of the tricks I tell them. Imagine you just got here. No past, no present, no future, like you just got here. It's a state of ignorance, right? And people don't, when you say you don't understand, they think you're being funny because of who you were in the past or something, or if you were sarcastic in the past, like, You really want to know from their perspective. You don't assume anything. You want them to explain. So so you look ignorant to many people. So so things that lost meaning to me, okay, so things that, how do I say this? So things that lost meaning to me, I had given them a concept, right? Which was all conditioned and cultured and so on, right? But now I feel like I can look upon the world without imposing a mind-made framework. I can look at it like that's what people mean by no judgment, like altruistically, like a baby. I can look at the world and learn. I'm open. It looks like you no longer understand anything, and while at the same time you understand and overstand everything there is to that's important to you, that you must know for your mission. You don't claim to know everything. No, anybody who knows anything knows they don't know shit. But you know God. You know that that true spiritual enlightenment is not through the ego. So that's one thing you do know. So what scared the shit out of me is I didn't consciously embrace this for a week. Like, I thought I was shot. This is where the darkness crept in for me for a little bit. So it's like you're going around the universe without any longer interpreting it compulsively. Like your mind is, it's like described as like no thoughts on anything. You're just literally observing. And it's like, and you're an innocent presence. Like, you're completely innocent. You have no ill will. You have no intentions. Like, that's altruism. Like, you are literally an observer. Like I said, people and events are alive to me now, and I'm just trying to fit my experience. I'm just not trying to fit my experience into a concept any longer. So this is why it's hard for me to put things together to explain to you any mystical or spiritual concept, because it's not a concept to me. It just is a way of life. I'm just being. You know, that's pretty much all I can say is I'm just being. Once again, the dark night of the soul it has to happen in order for rebirth to take place. Once the ego dies, the spirit can truly start leading and living as it intended. I really hope that this helped you guys out. I hope you can look back on this and gain as much wisdom as you can from this. If you have to do some research, do it. Go for it. Ask others. Ask me anything you'd like. The next video I would like to make is about the 12 laws of the universe. That basically all that are connected and influenced by spiritual forces need to follow these laws. They are the only laws that matter. I will make them make sense to you. But I hope I did a good job with the ego death and the dark night of the soul from a Blu-ray perspective. It was a little chilly out today, so no sunglasses. I really hope you have a joyful, peaceful, loving day, and you sleep very well. The new moon is coming up, so new manifestations. What you manifested for this past full moon should be playing out in front of you right now. If you did whatever you were thinking on, intentionally or not intentionally, that's why having a hold on this mind is very important, because you can set intentions. And that's how the laws of the universe, like the laws of attraction, work. We have to set intentions. We have to know, not just believe. Okay? So stay peace, stay love, and stay light.